Hey Greg, I've got your week 5 leg here. I just read your feedback as well, so I'll try to take that into account as I go through this. So you mentioned kind of having a problem with the transition between the quadriceps and the adductors along the line of the sartorius. And I think probably the major problem, and I've seen it on a couple other people's assignments, is kind of understanding what's going on with this cutoff. Right, out of context, it's hard to really place what's happening here, and I think that where you've ended up going is having the wrong planes established by this area. Right, so I'm just going to try to pull this around for you a little bit to make a little more sense out of it, because really, if we go back up to the highest level, we're looking at the anterior superior iliac spine, which you've done nicely. And then sartorius will be coming down here, right, on a standing leg. But also coming off the anterior superior iliac spine is, of course, the inguinal ligament, right? So inguinal ligament is coming down here, and that's going to establish the border of the leg and the stomach, right? So the thorax is going to be in here. The abdomen is going to be coming up. So either this is the abdomen, or it's something else, or it's the leg, but this little part in here is not kind of sculpted correctly. So rather than do that, I'm just going to actually cut this off. So kind of the abdomen is pushed back, and we're just looking purely at leg. And when you get that sense going, then that will kind of push this line back, and that will free up this area for the correct plane change that needs to happen there. And I'll rotate around in a second as soon as I get this in. I hope that makes sense. It's just kind of, I think your trouble kind of arose from that, as near as I could tell. Might be worth polishing that. Right, so that ends up being the border. Pubic symphysis is going to be right in here. And actually pubic symphysis is where all these adductors and things start to come off of. So it's pretty well established in here. Okay? And just that alone really kind of fixes up this area. Right, so next thing, we just kind of push the top of the rectus femoris in a little bit. I do like how you've kind of set things up, right? So a lot of this stuff that's going on out here is good. So I'm just going to outline these to be a little more explicit. I think maybe your leg is a little bit too tall for, yeah, I feel like maybe there's just a little bit too much height through here. Again, it's not a lot, and I'm not going to bring this up too much, but if we just kind of draw a line through here, you can see that kind of crest of the, if we kind of trace a line around the gluteal muscles and bring it kind of forward, we're hitting kind of mid quadricep, and right then start to descend. So it's just a little bit too tall right through here. We could probably excise a chunk about that much. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to risk doing this with just a big move at level 1 and see what happens. So I'll just get a big cursor and just grab all this and drop it down. Okay, so I think that actually is a little bit better. Just a little bit more compact. Okay, so let's just continue. I think your volumes are pretty good actually. So a lot of this stuff, once we've corrected these plane changes, looks good. I'd just be wary of kind of making sure that the vastus medialis is sufficiently kind of rounded on the back edge. I know the reference kind of has it a little bit squishy, but it does something like that. But again, remember the sartorius is the big thing to create these boundaries. Okay, and that just kind of goes up like that. All this comes down and gets squishy, which you've done pretty well. Be careful about this condyle popping in here. It can easily be too much, and all this is quite packed in, so it's better probably to just soften it up. Okay, on the knee itself, think you're okay. Just going to try to emphasize a little bit more the structure of the patellar tendon, especially on this lateral side where the vastus lateralis grabs on, because this is quite a strong edge that you see often. Okay, and just kind of looks good to have that. Then you just kind of have good irregularity. I think you might have a little bit too much irregularity down here. I think probably we're getting a little unified down here, and as we get to the tibia. Okay, and now when we're at the tibia, just be very careful to find and annotate the tibial tuberosity, where all this stuff grabs on, and then kind of build up your tibial plateau from there. Remember, you kind of the exercise breaking apart the knee was meant to give you guys an appreciation for kind of this tibial plateau and where everything slots in. So if this is the tibia, we need condyles sitting on top of it, and we need the kind of notch for these muscles down here, tibialis anterior and others slotted in. So don't lose sight of that bony plateau as you're constructing. So just kind of rotating laterally, I think we have too much going on right here. There's a strange muscular bulge happening in the area where it's just literally condyle, the lateral collateral ligament, and the iliotibial band coming down. Right, so iliotibial band is going to lash all this down and creates the nice flat plane on the side of the leg. And again, you have good construction because it goes up and aligns pretty nicely with the tensor fasciae latae and the gluteal muscles coming through in the back. And this comes down and it doesn't actually bulge out like this, right? So a lot of this needs to be just subdued a little bit. The only bulging we'll get in here is a tiny extension from vastus intermedius, which is coming off something like this, right? And just kind of picks up the back edge, the posterior border of the vastus lateralis. Okay, so really in here we're looking to make it feel a little bit bonier rather than convex muscle like you had. Okay, and on top of that we'll lay over, this kind of tension in the iliotibial band as it comes down and flares out a little bit down here. Right, so we can often see a little bit of that, but it's more tendinous and certainly not bulging like you had it. Okay, from here we've got to mark this guy, head of the fibula, and you've started to appreciate how it slots into the back of the tibia, head of the fibula, slots into the back of the tibia. And from there, we have biceps femoris tendon coming up, right? So that shoots up, and we have short head coming back here and tucking under the posterior border of the vastus lateralis. And then we have kind of the long head coming off the top, and this goes all the way up to the pelvis. Okay, and I think you've done that okay. Be wary of this. This little fat bulge is a little overdone. It's a little too big and round. Really what's happening is you're getting kind of fat build up here. And then actually there's kind of a tightening or a thickening of the fascia that creates this wrinkle. And so really you're getting this pressed against other skin and fat down here. So it's nice and bulgy up at the top, and then it just dissipates, right, as it goes down. So you just want to smooth that down a little bit. Okay, and goes in a little bit, but not all the way in. Beyond that, I think your calf muscles look pretty good. Good forms, good little transition here. So let's look at the bent leg and see how that's done. Okay. Quick look around. And I think in general this one is pretty successful. a few things bother me. I mean, constructionally, the knee is getting, well, okay, a couple things as we look a little bit deeper. Look at how long the vastus medialis is. When something like that happens and you know that it's only supposed to be a nice compact teardrop shape, it means that something is not quite right. And in this case, it's how the sartorius is meant to be coming down. The sartorius is coming down to here, like this. All right, so this guy is coming over, and he's really going to be cutting off, taking over that top edge that you've given to vastus medialis. And it's easy to do that, and a lot of people do it, but you just have to pay attention to this gesture and just keep in mind with the shapes that we already know from all our écorchés that kind of the shape of this muscle is never that long. All right, so we just kind of have to kind of refine it there. And when you have that set up correctly, it makes this finish correctly along this border, and everybody's happy. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then all this stuff kind of gets soft and gooey in here. It's easy to do the inside of the knee because nothing happens. It just gets really squishy as things come down and grab onto the tibia. Again, for the tibia, really find the kneeling point in the tibial tuberosity and make it pronounced. It's better to have a strong tibia than a weak one, right? Because really you need to support the weight of the body, so it needs to be quite structurally sound. Okay, and so when you have all that, this is going to give you where the condyles of the femur rest. Right now your condyle, if this is it, is doing really funny things, right? It's just kind of a ball sitting there. Really on the lateral side, remember this patella, you can see the edge of the patella quite pronounced. The condyle, it's just sitting right on top of the edge of the condyle, right? So in fact it's almost sliding in between it, so we need to just kind of take this in a little bit. That's kind of doing funny things on the outside. And I don't want to pop it out too much because it doesn't really pop out, but it's going to be there and relatively flat, but it's going to have things passing over it, but not bony, not muscular things. It's going to have, just like we had on the standing leg, it's going to have, you know, the iliotibial band coming over like this, kind of softening some things. It'll have a little bit of the vastus intermedius coming down over top of it to the patella. You know, things like that. And then there's a big ligament coming off the back to the head of the fibula, the lateral collateral ligament, and all those things, right? So really you just want to get a good sense of the plane and the boniness established on the outside, and then start to layer over top of it. That's my advice. Okay, front of the patella is okay. And then just kind of make sure that you have your plane set up. So this is all pulled fairly tight, right? So the patellar ligament is not wandering anywhere very quickly. It's tightly hooked in here, and there's tension through the quadriceps. So all this has to be quite strong and relatively planar. Okay, inside looks pretty good. You just be careful about too much condyle showing on the inside. You can get a little bit. That's probably the right amount. And then again, remember this guy, head of the fibula, on the bent knee. This line of the tendon is just going to go straight back. Right? It's not going to have a little wander. It generally just goes straight back in a line. And when you get that right, it'll give you this depression underneath the back of the knee. Which happens when these two tendons descend to their kind of tibial insertion. Okay? And that's that. Again, calf muscles look pretty good. And I've left this quite constructional, right? So a lot of this gets smoothed over and refined a little bit as you progress with the sculpt and put the different layers on top of it. But I just wanted to leave it raw so you could see what's there. Now let's just look at the knees that you've constructed, the bones. Okay, in general, pretty good. In general, pretty good. I think you've kind of gotten all the things that I wanted you to observe. You know, I want you to just get a sense of, well, one, the sense of the condyle, sense of the space between them for the patella, relatively flatter outer surface for the lateral condyle, and a little bit bulgier around medial condyle. Tibial tuberosity, head of the fibula. So that's all fine, and I assume it's fine on this as well. Okay, but yeah, I don't think your legs in general were as bad as you made them out in your kind of notes to me. So you should be happy about that. I think hopefully a lot of these exercises will prime you guys to be ready to tackle a lot of the contours that you're going to see in the full figures that we address in this latter half of the course. Okay, so well done, and enjoy your week off, and I will see you in another week for week number 6. Okay, thanks, Greg.